This video is sponsored by Squarespace, but I'll tell you more about them later. This last week has been a lot of work. The way that I work with being able to remove so nicely with erasers requires you to apply graphite in a really specific way. Just trying to be very gentle and cautious not to change the texture of the paper. And we can also cross-hatch as well if we're getting a lot of streaks. And then we can just blend that over with a brush. I usually like to apply graphite in this way when I need to be really gentle and careful with it. And we can slowly layer this up as well if we need to. The secret to this is to have an extremely sharp pencil. If your pencil is a little bit blunt, you're not going to get as much graphite onto the paper as you need. And then I can erase my shapes in there. I'm pressing extremely lightly with my eraser as well. If I disrupt the paper's surface with the eraser, it means that if I need to go back in and apply a new tone, then it'll be less successful, and that's kind of defeating the whole point of this technique. I want to be able to work with many layers so that I can slowly get the eventual tone that I'm looking for. And if I need to as well, I can just remove quite a lot of tone with these very soft erasers and just very gently lift back out and try again. There will always be a degree of dirtying your paper, and so this is just to try and mitigate that tiny little bit of damage that gets done with each layer. Since I've been working on the easel, I've needed to be very aware of where my arm is and where my shoulder is, so extending a lot of things. So these are little like makeup brush things on the ends of sticks, which really basic, but has actually helped me a ton. And it's been really fun to just slowly design things that are helping the process, or things that I haven't been able to see that are available on the market. And yeah, it's nice also to just have handmade tools that are kind of imbued with a little bit of yourself in them. So yeah. That's these guys. There's been a huge shift in direction for the new drawings, which has been really exciting as well. So that's been playing around with the rocks theme, which is part of the sculptures that I've been doing for a while, and just a continuation of that. I think at the moment I'm trying to find balance in my life, and that's been part of the reason why I've started working at home as well. The studio, as wonderful as it is, and the team as wonderful as they are, has been just huge opportunities for me to distract myself. So even the most minuscule problem, I'm jumping to it and just using that as something that's far more pressing that I need to focus on rather than the drawings and the planning. So the planning has been something really special and a lot of fun to be doing in the studio, and trying to find balance in my life. I think this series of works speaks to that really well. So the act of balancing the rocks in the studio was a very cathartic one. The idea is to create this landscape with these large organic structures of rocks that are impossibly balanced on top of each other. there's a couple really precarious, huge boulders around Cape Town that are just absolutely beautiful, and to almost recreate that sense of these huge boulders beautifully balanced on top of each other with maybe some life or trees growing on top of them is the plan. And that's led to just a bunch of fun play in the studio as well. To try and hold space for that process has been really cool. And wanting to try and find practical ways to help guide me as well. So pouring wax over the rocks to see if I can try and get something that looks like roots ended up being a bit of a disaster, and I ended up coating the rocks in wax, which made them look kind of plastic, and so I had to cook them to get all the wax off, and just tons of problems as well with this process. But again, it's important to try and invite those moments in and to try and solve those problems slowly. But yeah, eventually we found a beautiful solution to that, and I think it's coming along really well. And then to try and add a bit of a like misty, ethereal moment to it, I got a bunch of dry ice and started playing around with that as well. So I'm incredibly excited about this, and it's created a really beautiful treat at the end of the tunnel for me to really try and push to get the current drawings finished so that I can sink my teeth into these new drawings. I just want to give a quick shout out to this video sponsor, Squarespace. I've been working with them for a couple of years now, and they've played a huge role in my career, not only in sponsoring these videos and helping me maintain this channel, but early on in my career, I was looking for a way to showcase my work, and I didn't have time to learn HTML and design a reliable, beautiful website. I needed a way to beautifully show my work to collectors, make it easy for them to find me and get in touch with me. And I felt that Squarespace did all of that effortlessly. I never had to patch or upgrade anything. I could register a domain with them and set up an online store. And most importantly, I could design a portfolio and show my work the way that I wanted to. Also, every time I got stuck, their amazing support team helped me out instantly. So if you're looking at building a website, give Squarespace a try. And if you decide that you love them, use this offer code and get 10% off your first purchase. I think this time is really tumultuous for me. It's a little bit all over the place, and that's why I'm so drawn towards balance and trying to create balance. I always find it interesting how the work really taps into something that I'm grappling with, whether it's conscious or subconscious. But yeah, it's nice to just kind of look back on that and see how it's played out. Cool. Yeah, I hope you guys found this video interesting to just see into the, I suppose, the chaos. Things aren't always as planned and smooth as it might seem from the outside. And I'm really hoping that these kinds of videos can give some insight into the process, and that it's not always as perfect as it might seem. If you have any questions on parts of the process, you can ask me in the comments. I usually try to reply in the comments or in the next video. So on that note, there's a couple comments that I wanted to go through that I saw. So the one is asking, have you heard or seen of tensegrity tables? Yeah, so these tables are really, really cool. And it's definitely been in the back of my mind with this whole sculpture idea. So there's something around the way that it like seemingly floats, which I really like. And I've been thinking about a way to try and incorporate that into this whole process, but I'm not quite sure how it's going to work just yet. So here's a comment from Razor. I would love to see you do a highly detailed landscape. I guess that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment. I am not sure. I guess it will be a landscape. Yeah. It's an interesting one. Landscapes feel very diffuse to me, and I think I often want to have a solitary subject, which speaks to like some themes that have just constantly been reoccurring in my works, with like isolation and loneliness. But I guess these are landscapes, and it might be nice to try and push that boundary a little bit and lean into the openness of a landscape. But yeah, it's a bit uncanny that you're asking that. Here's a comment from Ads asking how I captured my reference photos before I had all those gadgets. I just used the light from a window, and it's iterative. So as you get more gadgets and toys, then you start to learn how to use these things. And before you have them, you kind of just make do with what you have. But the principles are all the same. So I know that I enjoy dramatic lighting. So making sure that my room was dark, I'd open up one light source, and that would just be one window. And then I'd put my subject onto a plinth or have them model in the middle of the room and just be experimental. It was also just really interesting to have to adapt to what the sun or the weather was doing. There's this artist actually on Instagram who takes the most incredible photos, and she just uses a window in her attic. Her Instagram is Tracy Goldfinch Elson, and I just absolutely love the lighting in her photographs, and she's not using anything fancy. And that's quite a strong argument that goes to show that you don't need anything fancy to create absolutely incredible reference images. So I think having all the toys and things is a product of my geekiness. So I really enjoy just geeking out on computers and cameras and stuff like that. So I've always just iteratively built more whenever I've had the opportunity to. But by no means do you need all of this kind of stuff to get something really beautiful. Cool. I hope you guys found this video helpful or entertaining. If you did, leave a like. It helps the channel out in a huge way. As always, thanks for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.